Troops, here we are. It's another Corona-19 podcast special, and I'm very privileged to be joined by a woman who's at the forefront of mountain leading, based down in Snowdonia. It's Helen Howe from Snowdonia First Aid. And Helen, what's your second business?
Snowdonia Mountain Skills. So running things like the mountain leader training, mountain leader assessment, also winter skills, navigation days, refresher days for mountain leaders, lots of stuff.
Cool. First of all, how are you coping in the current climate?
Staying positive, coping pretty well. I mean, it's frustrating not being out in the hills because I'll be out most weeks, most days, apart from when I'm teaching first aid. But yeah, trying to be as positive as I can. So be it running a business, sometimes you just don't get time to get on with all the small stuff like your accounts and your bookkeeping and responding to lots of emails and all that sort of thing. So I'm trying to use it as a real positive, get ahead with the accounts this year so that when we finally start up again, whenever it is, we can hit the ground running and not have to worry about all the extra admin that normally would be getting in the way.
So what got you into the hills, walking, mountain leading, and obviously further qualifications from that?
All right, quite a long story. My family have always been into the hills, so my dad used to take me up mountains when I was a kid. I think I did Scarfell Pike when I was about either 6 or 8 years old, I'm not sure which.
Nice.
And he took us down Mickledore in the days when you still actually scree run it. And we scree ran down it, which was absolutely fantastic. I think now if you go back there where there was scree, there are some crags now because it's all got displaced. We're not supposed to admit to the old days of scree running, but all mountaineers used to back then. And I remember him swearing us to secrecy not to tell my gran because she'd have killed him if she knew where he'd taken us. But Mum and Dad had us out in the Yorkshire Dales because we were lucky enough to live in Lancashire, so we were up in the Yorkshire Dales every weekend. We had family up in the lakes, so we were able to go up there. Then we graduated to Scotland, so that was a family side of it. I then went on Christian youth camps up in the lakes as a teenager, and we were out, there were specific outdoor camps, so we're up in the hills, and that's the point at which I think I got the love really for myself rather than because I was being forced to do it by family. And that's actually why I became a leader. Because I thought, I like the look of what these guys at the top are doing. They're leading us in the hills. So I got my ML qualifications. But back in the days when I did my ML, there weren't all the freelance jobs that you have now. It was either outdoor local authority centres or it was you were teaching. So I ended up doing a geography teaching degree and or PGCE anyway, and then used my geography in the school to become involved with D&D, some expedition, geography field trips, etc. But in the meantime, just every time I had the chance, I was out in the mountains. And while I was at uni, I actually joined the mountain rescue team up in Teesdale, and then moved that to Lancashire when I moved back to Lancashire, which got me out in the hills even more.
Oh, that's it. That's interesting. Teesdale's not too far from where I am, and
I should hope so with that accent.
and I spend a lot of time on either in Weardale or Teesdale. And actually, I think low level navigation can be a lot harder than being up high and just going across ridgelines. What was your favourite part of Teesdale? Where did you get to?
Oh, one of my favourite walks was from Low-Force. Actually, when we were at university, I was in the hiking club at uni at Durham, and we used to walk from Low-Force all the way across to dropping down into Cumbria. Is it Dufton?
Dufton, yeah.
And hike up Nick. So it was really going all the way up from Low-Force, High Force, up past Cow Green.
Cow Green Reservoir,
Cauldron Snout.
Cauldron Snout, awesome.
Across the tops there. Sometimes in really bad mist, which was interesting. But I know what you mean about the low level nav, because on the mountains you can use the slopes. If you're down in lowland areas, trying to navigate your way through all the bad vegetation, sometimes well overgrown, paths which don't exist, they're there on the map, but they're not on the ground.
Yeah.
Etc. And it's funny, quite a lot of the big mountain rescues, or some of the old big mountain rescue incidents, have been from people getting it wrong at the beginning of the day.
Yeah.
And then in the wrong valley right at the beginning of the day, but then spending the rest of the day trying to make the map fit the ground and vice versa. Even though they've been in the wrong glen or the wrong valley.
It's a dead interesting place. High Force is a really truly stunning place. I feel like a bit of health and safety's took over in the last sort of 2 years, and there was a real beauty spot which someone's kindly put a horrible iron fence sort of on the very edge of the rocks. So where you could get that brilliant sort of landscape photo of the force, now there's this awful fence. But I love it through there, and sort of on the Pennine Way and Cauldron Snout is a fantastic formation. It's like we couldn't design that if we tried, could we? Like the way it looks and the little scramble on the side. It
is incredible. I'll tell you what, though, it's a shame Britain goes OTT with health and safety. I did quite a bit of working in Iceland, running schools field trips out there for NST.
Cool.
And the Icelanders, they put up a few signs. Their safety railings normally are iron bars stuck in the ground with ropes, and just lots of signs saying you'll get your hand boiled off if you go past this place or whatever. And they don't respond by having huge safety signs. And once in a while, a tourist dies because they don't follow the rules. But they think that's nature. Accountability, Helen. That's
that's the thing. No, it's I'm very lucky, and I'm very lucky that I've sort of got my own little community up here of people who want to travel all over the UK and go in the mountains and see all these beautiful things. Where would you say have you got a favourite mountain?
Oh, flipping heck. Hard to say. I've got quite a few mountains I absolutely love. It would be more mountain areas. Torridon. I absolutely adore Torridon. Places like Glen Shiel, South Shiel Ridge, and the Five Sisters of Kintail. That whole Glen Affric, Mulladoch, Glen Shiel, and Torridon. Probably at Assynt, if you go up to places like Assynt with Sutherland, with Sullivan, Culmore, Benmore, Assynt, etc. I couldn't choose a favourite. I've just got to say that whole northwest of Scotland is just absolutely awesome and gobsmacking.
Yeah, I've not done too much up in Scotland. I've got a love for Galloway. I call it mini Scotland. It's like the secret Scotland, because everyone obviously goes past it to go up to sort of all the big hotspots and sort of. For those people who've never been to Galloway, it is a stunning place, and that's a really good place to nav, because there's no paths. Like there's like one path going up the Merrick, and then it's a there and back path. So if you want to try and make like a day out of it, you have to be able to sort of pick your own routes, and obviously doing your mountain lead, it teaches you that skill of like how to descend off a mountain where there isn't a conventional path, where it's not going to be mega steep, where it's going to be like, well, hold on to your pants. Have
you been across to the Devil's Bowling Green over there as well?
No, I haven't. I'm going to write that down. The Devil's Bowling Green. I like that. What does that entail?
Well, you access it from Glen Shule. I think you could do it in a big day from Merrick.
Right.
But it's if you go all the way up the Glen and then turn north. I remember some loch. I can't remember the name of it. It's years since I was there. But then you've got the Devil's Bowling Green, which is this glacially scoured flat rock with various little boulders on it.
Oh, nice.
So locals called it the Devil's Bowling Green because it looks like someone's been bowling.
Oh, right. Look, that's why we do podcasts, because it's always good to share information. What are you hoping once this is all finished and we all get out of lockdown? as a society and as someone who teaches and upskills people in the mountaineering community, what are you hoping we learn from this crisis?
Oh gosh, to be more in tune with nature. I'm not going to say that coronavirus is being caused by not being in tune. I mean, the Chinese, if that's where it has come from, they have always eaten wild animals. Not that I approve of it, but that's what's been happening. I just hope people just have a bit more respect for nature. One of the things we've noticed locally, I live in Snowdonia, the place is in lockdown. It's beautiful at the moment. It would be great to be out there, but at the same time, pardon my French, we're not getting the shit around the car parks. And I mean that literally. Over the last 2 years, since the great outdoors has become very, very popular with the masses, and I don't want to sound elitist here, but it's suddenly become acceptable for people to drop litter. It's just become the norm. It's been the norm to shit literally on human paths. So once I was walking up the pig track, and less than half a kilometre from the car park, there was a human turd right in the middle of the path. If you walk around our car parks in Clanberris, a lot of the time, there's human muck and toilet paper, even on the car parks. So whether people will have a bit more respect and not do that sort of thing when they come back, I don't know. I sincerely hope so. I also hope people have learned not to be as wasteful, because I think certainly not so far in our area, but I know where my aunt lives, she said they can't collect the recycling anymore because they are concentrating on trying to get rid of the waste from hospitals and deal with all that and make that a priority. And I'm just hoping people become a bit more careful with the amount of waste they're creating as a result of all this.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. People panicked, didn't they? Fear spread, and people went bananas in regards to buying stuff that they didn't need or they didn't want. And I wonder where this new joy, passion came from for the outdoors. For me, and maybe it's like a lot of people, I ended up on a national three peaks by hook or by crook, and that's what got me into the outdoors. Now, probably purists probably don't. Well, I don't want to say don't like the national three peaks, but a lot of people get introduced to sort of Ben Nevis, Snowdonia, and Snowdon by the national three peaks, and I think that's where the volume comes from, isn't it? And I know Wasdale gets absolutely hammered, and that valley itself, like getting in there, is that one single road. And I know the National Trust has made an effort to improve the toilets down there and the car parking facilities. What's your take? Has it gone too far, these national three peaks stuff, or it just has to be done in a better way? I know some very good companies run them and run them really well. I think it's when these big challenge events go on, and it's about volume over sort of style is what I'd use, I think.
Yeah, it's easy to be elitist, and I know in the early days of when the National Three Peaks was really taking off locally, a lot of us locally sort of frowned on it, and then we thought, hang on, there are all these mountain leaders coming in from outside the area getting the money for running it in our area, so we got more involved. And it changed my view of it, because I met a lot of people like yourself who that was their introduction to the outdoors. Some who'd lost 4 stone, get fit to do the three peaks, and they were saying, this is amazing, I'm going to keep walking from now on. And to me, that's fantastic. If it means so long as they're in tune with nature as well. So as mountain leaders, it's our role to try and say to people, look, if you drop all this litter, then just imagine what it's going to be like at the end of the summer when, if every single group drops that litter. So it's a case of educating people. But I think it's fantastic that more people are getting out and enjoying it, because I think the more they see it, they enjoy it, the more they're going to look after it. So to me, it's fantastic. What I'm not as keen on, I've got to admit, are the sort of big triathlon outdoor type events which take place in the mountains, where you can get sometimes 600 people at one go running a single footpath in the mud, and they are dropping litter because they're dropping their glucose packets and things like that. And I think that hammers the landscape a lot more than a minibus load arriving to do the Llanberis path.
Yeah.
So whatever time. What we always try to say to people, if you're doing the Three Peaks, especially if you're doing it from Llanberis, because of the times they arrive, and especially also not just the Three Peaks, sunrise and sunset events, which are
popular.
latest sort of info.
Yeah.
We just try to say to people, look, if you're on Victoria Terrace, this is a housing estate, technically, and some of the people in these houses are having to do shift work, some are having to get up in the morning to go to work, so just keep the noise down.
No,
respect the locals for that.
Yeah, no, that's that's interesting. There's a girl down there who's a quality mountain leader called Honesty Cooper. I don't know if you know her or you've met her, but she leads events for me down in North Wales, and I remember her saying, I want to run an event in North Wales, but I don't want it to be on Snowdonia. Like, I want it to be like, there's so much more to North Wales than Snowdonia. And we took people on a right adventure, and people were like, oh, I've never been here before, and I've never been there before, and it was a fantastic route. And people say to me like, oh, I'm going to go to the lakes this weekend. Do you think I should do Scarf? And I'm like, nah. go and do something. Go and do something a little bit different. Go up Skiddaw. Go Blencathra or Helvellyn or go a different way. Do you know what I mean? Like,
do Scarfell from the Langdales.
Yeah, that. Do you know?
Brilliant way up.
Yeah, I'm glad you've mentioned that. From the Langdales is a proper adventure. Like, it is and you won't see anyone until like the sort of meet-up points. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll have it all yourself, and it's the same with when I do Blencathra. I always go sort of from the Mug Rysdale side, because no one ever goes from that side, and you can just pick a route up and over Bannerdale Crags and go that way or down through the valley until you sort of hit Sharp Edge, and then you meet all the crowds again. But and this is why I always encourage people to become competent with map and compass. I said because it opens you up to have the ability, any weather within reason, to have the confidence to go and have an adventure and stay off these well trodden beaten tracks. On your side of it, obviously you run mountain leader training and mountain leader assessments. What sort of people would you say are now turning up to do? Have you seen a change in age groups, in sexes? How's it looking in the last sort of time that you've been teaching it?
Actually pretty mixed all the way across. From you get people who are older, say in the 50s, even 60s. We've had some people in their 60s who want to do assessments and training because they just want something new in life. You get younger people, you get some who just want to work as, I hate to say it, as MIAs, and you've got to do your ML to be an MIA.
Right,
so
okay.
Actually don't have that much interest in walking, some of them. They're just into, I've got to get this box ticked so I can then get into my climbing and do that. You've got others who want a career change. They've worked in the city, or they've done what they see as pretty, not dead-end jobs, but maybe boring jobs. And they now want to change, and they just want to make their hobby into their career. So it's all sorts of shapes, sizes coming out, doing their MLs. And
obviously, as a woman who instructs in the mountains, would you like to see more and more women coming into the industry and gaining the qualifications that you have and setting up successful businesses along the way?
I personally think too much is made of the whole women in the outdoors thing.
Interesting.
I'll get shot down in flames for this. But there aren't as many girls out there doing it, so I'm not in an agreement that we should have 50%, 50 male, 50% female instructors. I think if you really want to get out there, you get out and do it. Maybe I'm old school in that sense. It's like when I joined Mountain Rescue, there weren't that many women around, and you really had to fight your corner. And I can remember one guy saying to me, "Only proper chaps do this." And the thing was, he wasn't meaning it in a male-female way. I'd had a really rough day on my first assessment with my search dog. Had blizzard conditions, got mild hypothermia. And I was having a bit of a moan that night, and he just said, "You're either a proper chap or you're not, and if you can't stand it, you shouldn't be here."
Wow.
But he would have said exactly the same if I'd been male. So to him, it wasn't a male-female thing. And I think too much is sometimes made of the male-female side of things. It's just like, if you, to me, you're an outdoor person or you're a hill walker. It's not, I'm female hill walker, or you're a male hill walker, male mountain rescuer, female mountain rescuer.
Yeah.
You're a mountain rescuer, you're a mountaineer, you're a hill walker. So from that sense, it does annoy me a bit when I hear people going, "Oh, girls are still discriminated against in the outdoors."
Yeah, no, I think you might
go back 30 years, then you'll know what discrimination was. I just think it's good to see anyone getting out there and enjoying it. I think, to me, if you look at, are there not enough of any particular group, often it is the ethnic background, ethnic minority background groups who find it harder to get into the outdoors. Whether it's there because you're a female in certain cultures, or whether it's just not as many of your culture, full stop, are into the outdoors. So inner city kids, don't see many people from a inner city.
Yeah, London,
They don't get that access to the outdoors, whereas most middle class females, they get access to the outdoors, whether it's through skiing holidays, school trips, etc. So I am a bit different in my thinking there.
No, you've made a great point, and hypothermia doesn't care what sex you are or what. It's funny that's happened, because yesterday we had a cat called Kevin, the farm cat, invade the podcast, so now your dog's invaded. What's your dog called?
That's Maggie. That's the youngster.
No, it's cool, and you're right in what you're saying. Falling off a mountain doesn't discriminate. Hypothermia won't discriminate. And again, if you're good enough, you're good enough, aren't you? Regardless of anything. You're right in what you say. Sometimes this trait of, we need more this or we need more of that. Well, are they good enough to be that? Well, it's that saying, cream rises to the top, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? And I know some absolute stellar women, and I'll put my partner as one of them. We're training for an ultra race which runs on the North Yorkshire Moors at the end of September. Hopefully that goes ahead. And I'm training really hard because I know, like, she'll have me over the long distance. Do you know what I mean? Because her physiology lends itself better for long distance running than me. I'm much bulkier and much heavier. So, like, I'm training really, really hard. And but there's other women, Nikki Spinks, Jasmine Paris. These are all people who are ahead of their fields in the areas where they run and mountains and etc. like that. But I think it's bang on what you said. It's a great point to make.
Because I've always found it with the mountain rescue, I'm not necessarily the fastest up the mountains. There are a lot taller, fitter guys than me, but I can search for hours. And the same when I do my hill days in Scotland. Sometimes it is the really long hill days, sort of the 10-hour mountain days. Where
it's a beast.
I'm at the end of them. Not necessarily with the speed at the beginning, but certainly by the end, still going pretty strong and happy.
What would you say for people who are wanting to do their MLs? For me, when people ask me that question, I just say, depends how bad you want it. If you want it fast, then you've got to be in the mountains every week. And if the weather's inclement, then you should look at that and say, that's a real testy day. Like, I'm lucky I had great teachers throughout my sort of training and assessment. And one person always said to me was, know your group or know your mountain, but don't have two unknowns going into a day. And I've always sort of lived by that. Know the ability of your group or know your mountain, and understand what challenges it can present itself. What would you say to people who are thinking about starting their ML journey?
Get out and do lots. People get this real hang up about what is a QMD, what's Coffee Mountain Day. If you read the Facebook forums, you see it time and time again say, does this qualify? Is this a QMD? And as someone who just goes out and walks for pleasure, I think if you go out and do a decent day, then you'll probably find it's a QMD.
Yeah.
Certainly go out into at least 3 different regions. And one thing as an assessor, me and my husband look at, or let's say our ears prick up at, or eyes, whichever, and when we're reading people's D-logs, have they got days in Scotland? Because I think it's like you said with Galloway.
Yeah.
You don't have the yellow brick roads to follow in certain areas of Scotland. In the lakes, you still do. You do in Snowdon. And I'm not going to say that something like the Snowdon Horseshoe isn't a QMD just because you've had to follow a path all the way around.
Yeah.
Because people will have learned a lot about themselves, whether it's the scrambling, etc. But if you want to get a variety and really learn, can you navigate and are you good at that sort of thing, then you've got to get out into lesser known mountains, edges of the Lake District, which people might say, oh, those are only hills. But actually, you can carry up onto a mountain from them, but they don't have the big paths. And again, go to a place like Scotland, a lot of Scottish hills, especially the Corbetts, more than the Munros, because they're not as popular, they don't have the path. So you spend a lot of the day off-piste, so to speak, having to pick your own route through, sometimes through crags and steep ground, or just across moorland to get to the foot of the mountain. So I think just get out, do it, enjoy the mountains, make enjoyment in a way the priority, because the more you enjoy it, the more you'll go out and do stuff. But yeah, try and get some time without being on paths. And to me, the Corbetts is one way to do that, definitely. I mean, the Munros are fantastic. We've done all the Munros, and we've only got 4 Corbetts left to do.
Wow.
We weren't going to be doing them in the next week. That's gone for now. But yeah, one thing the Corbetts have taught me is there are still mountains out there where you really do have to pick your routes, and you may not have any decent paths on them whatsoever.
You make a very great point there, Helen, because I'd spent a lot of time in the lakes, and I can flash like a 25-30k day in the lakes, like 8 to 10 hours, no problem.
Yeah.
And I went to Galloway for a weekend, and I planned like a 30k day. Now,
oh, that's great.
Well, and I got there, you know, and basically I followed the Southern Uplands Way to a point, then broke off it, and then sort of was trying to follow this route, and it was like nothing I'd ever gone across before. And I remember I wasn't even at the halfway point, and I remember looking at my watch thinking, oh, like I am massively behind where I think I should be. and what it made me do is it made me put in an extra strategy and thinking, I'm not going to get around this. And I haven't said to myself, I want to do night nav tonight, and I don't want to be out at night on my own in the middle of the Galloway Hills, an area I've got no affinity to at all. And it made me adapt my plan, change my plan, and come up with an escape route. And that is exactly what you said, of when there is no path, you take these paths for granted. And I was like, wow, this has kicked my head in today. Like, and I class myself to be like a fit, strong guy, but it was just relentlessly tough. And I'm like, oh, there's no sort of like break where it was like nice sort of low grass. It was just all sort of hard, trudgy through. And I was like, wow, escape route. I'm putting an escape route in. I'm going to get a bearing, and I'm going to get on an escape route back to some sort of path. And then I literally just made it back as well, just as we were losing light. I was like, Christ, that would have been interesting. Slightly embarrassing, but no, Helen, that's great.
It's amazing how fast we are on paths, and like you say, we take it for granted, but the minute you go on to different types of vegetation, it doesn't half slow you up a lot.
Yeah, and you consume loads more energy, and you drink lots more water, and these are all things that you need to think about, isn't it, with your route selection and what type of day you think you're going to have to, actually, what day am I going to have? So no, it was interesting. Helen, we're absolutely flying through this. So what we're going to do is we're going to sort of look at the 5 what's, the questions that I sent you in, before the podcast. And obviously it's a COVID-19 special 5 what's. So the first one, what does your day look like?
Well, I am trying to keep into a routine. It's not working. We're going to bed later than we intend, and as a result, we're getting up later than we intend. But I think that's also because the clocks went back. Went forward, and that's annoyed my time, my own time schedule sort of thing. But yeah, I'm trying to get up each morning and do some business admin. Do some personal type admin as well, because I'm sort of going through loads of documents that have sat around for the last goodness knows how many years and never been sorted. I've had to do it for my mum's house. And when I was doing my mum's house, I thought, oh, blimey, I shouldn't be criticising because I haven't done it here either. So it's got me off my backside. I'm doing that. I'm trying to put exercise routines in there as well. We'll come on to that for the next question. Try and have a mix of doing that sort of thing, doing some new things in there as well. And then I let my husband walk the dogs in the morning because he's a bit more, probably got more cabin fever than me. Partly because he doesn't use a computer as much, so he's got less options. And then I'll walk the dogs before tea. And then the evening is the time we slum or watch TV, but I'm trying to be really strict and not get into a habit of watching television at all in the daytime. It's a habit I've always tried to have when I've got admin days at home. I try desperately never ever to watch television in an admin day.
That's
positively.
Yeah, that's a great point. If you're looking for something to watch, Disney Plus are offering a 3-day 7 trial at the moment. Disney Plus is absolutely fantastic.
Game of Thrones, Shrek. Downton Abbey.
That's fair play. Second one, mate. What workouts are you doing to keep active?
All right. How embarrassing. I'm not doing this. Let's climb Scarfell
on the stairs.
What I'm doing at the moment, if my knee will cope with this, I'm trying to run the stairs every day and add an extra flight of steps. So I'm really hoping to goodness this doesn't go on for 6 months because I'll have knackered my knees completely. I actually didn't start at 1. I started at about 8. So I'm up to today. It'll be 13 flights running.
Oh, nice.
And I'll add an extra flight per day as long as I can.
I'm
also dancing to music. So the 1980s music's really good. Actually the Four Tops and some of the Motown. So I'm just doing YouTube dance routines following the stars, the singers and their dance routines.
That's really good.
Also pretty fit, but I have to close the curtains for that because I want my neighbours to see my dance routine.
That's fair. It's fair enough. Third one, mate. What have you started? Have you started anything new? Learn a language?
Gosh, I'm rubbish at languages. I always have been. So no, I have started something new. I have been working my way through some of the MTA CPDs.
Right.
So I did the Paul Gannon one of the Paul Gannon ones the other day. I've also started a Met Office one to do with the weather.
That is hard. That's a hard one.
It's not that hard for me because I did a geography degree, which had weather. I've taught meteorology to A-level students for years. But it's just, whatever you teach, you never know everything. There's new terminologies. So I'm sort of everything I'm learning a little bit new. I've signed up, and I'll see whether it happens or not, but it turns out there's been a bit of a demand for exam marking, which surprised me. Because in the past I've done exam marking for geography for some of the exam boards, and although the exams have been cancelled this year, it turns out there are parents a bit worried about this situation, especially long term for their kids next year and the year after. And one of my friends runs a marking award, sort of a marking
service. I know what you're saying.
So I've sent my CV to her and I'll see if I get any work from that, so it might bring a trickle in. I'd have happily been out doing the fields if the farmers needed it, but we know arable farming in this area, so I can't pick grass for them. if it really looks like it's going to go on a long time, I'll look at other courses. I've always liked writing, actually. I used to write fiction in my spare time. So whether I'll do a creative writing course or something like that to keep me occupied.
I'll tell you what's a good one, and I have one. I have a VA, so I'll send, say if I create an event and it's got all the sort of risk assessments, the event details, blah, 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 I'll send it to her and she proofreads it and changes the grammar and then sends it back to me and then charges me for like an hour and a half of her time before I sort of officially publish it, sort of thing. So like that's big. It's definitely on LinkedIn. There's a lot of people advertising their services for proofreaders and people who are. It's just a great time to adapt, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a time to adapt. Yeah, no, fair enough. Fourth one, what have you stopped doing? So for me, I can't go to coffee shops. Yeah, working.
Yeah, stop working at the moment. Stop going up the mountains because the Snowdonia mountains are effectively closed. There's been a stop on all the main footpaths going out the Snowdon, the Carnivide, the Glidders, Moylelio, Elidavar, you name it. So what else have I stopped?
Is anything like anything personal, like as in maybe you went to the cinema or you like the theatre or a certain coffee shop? Moishy boy?
Cafe. Whenever we have days off, we try to go to Shabog Cafe and wind Nick up. So if Nick listens, hiya Nick.
Yeah. Best scones in the UK. Fact.
Oh, fantastic, yeah. And beach walks, we've had to stop that. We're able to keep it up for a little while, but now,
that's gone as well.
I need to travel, so I'm missing the beaches because the dogs absolutely love them. The other thing I've had to stop is taking my old dog to her physiotherapy.
Right.
So I'm going to have to do more physio with her at home to keep that leg strong.
So when the day the Prime Minister finally says, get out there, what's the first thing you're going to do after lockdown?
I would love to say visit my mum and visit my aunt.
Right.
Because my mum's in a care home, so
right,
we're not able to visit her for actually slightly longer than the lockdown's gone on anyway. And my aunt's sort of in vulnerable health-wise.
Right.
But probably when the lockdown finishes for the rest of us, I would imagine they will still be in social isolation. I guess. So probably get up a mountain. Apart from get working as soon as we can to make it a short haul. But get up a mountain and get to the beach.
Fair
with
play.
the dogs coastal run.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Helen, that's going to bring us to the end of our podcast, but feel free to tell everyone where they can find yourself, your businesses, and how they can get in touch with your website, etc.
So we're on the internet on www.snowdoniafirstaid.co.uk and also www.snowdoniamountainskills.co.uk. And we run both outdoor first aid courses, specifically for anyone who does the outdoors for recreation, but also who needs it for their jobs. And also the mountain side. So we'll be raring to go once it's over. We are actually quite lucky. Most of our clients haven't cancelled, they've just postponed, which is amazing. And we're really, really grateful for that. But the minute we can get going, there will be courses up and running. But at the moment, to be honest, I'm probably thinking it's going to be at least June, possibly July.
I think so, mate. I think that's a fair shout. I think June is what I'm sort of looking at as well. So look, Helen, I appreciate you coming on. I think it's amazing what you're doing. You're always a constant. And next time I'm down the cafe, Moishy boy, I'll look out for you, and I'll make sure to introduce myself in person. Thanks very much for coming on the show, Helen. I appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank very much.
Bye-bye. Bye.